about that. Who gets the federal jobs?
See, I found somebody.
Hey, Rick.
Hey,
I found
did you have to
somebody.
go? Did you have to go out on the street and find him?
Yeah,
No,
he had to
no.
go running from me because I was running hiding.
He just walked through the door.
Okay. Okay. I'll get my coat for the moment.
Hello. How are
Hello.
you?
How are you,
Good to
sir?
see you.
Okay.
Miss,
Good to be seen.
we missed you at the meeting last week.
Sorry. Been a bit busy
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Today was one of my days off, and I was running the whole day.
Oh man, yeah. I know how that goes. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep. And I'm retired, but I'm still running.
And I'm supposed to be semi-retired.
Yeah.
How you doing, Danny?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, the Lord is blessing, and I say thank you.
Yeah,
Praise
absolutely.
the Lord.
Absolutely. It's good to see you and your wife Sunday.
Oh, always good to see you. Yes. And what a grand occasion. What a grand occasion.
Oh, it was.
It was. It was a wonderful, wonderful event. Yes.
And the food afterwards was pretty good too.
Oh, yeah. Soul food.
I enjoyed it a lot.
Oh, good, good. And Sarah's coming in. Yeah.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Well, Sarah.
Rick, were you able to uh, share with the Lutherans a racial um, summit that they had? The
Oh,
African, the African
yeah.
Descent.
It,
Okay.
yeah, I did not enjoy it a whole lot. I thought it was poorly done. I'm
Oh, okay.
sorry.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I sat through all of it. Just I was bored more than anything.
Okay. Well,
I mean, there were some good things, but it wasn't worth 4 hours of my time on my day off.
Okay,
Which workshops were you in, Rick?
Um, I
Do
had it
you
written
recall?
down here.
That's okay. I really enjoyed the speakers.
I enjoyed the opening worship
Yeah,
speaker. I thought she was fun.
yeah, yeah. I thought it was real good, and I enjoyed the bishop, there lacrosse, his message at the end as well.
okay. Well, we might just discuss that a little bit. Some of us were on, and we'll run through that just a little bit. Okay. Hi, Bruce. How you doing?
I'm a little bit under the weather, but I'm here.
Uh-oh.
All right.
Sorry,
Okay.
Bruce.
Don't breathe
Sorry
on
about
us.
that. We pray that the Lord just bless you.
Thank you.
And I see Orlando McCauley Jr. is coming in. We're getting pretty close to the time to get started. Jackie said she was coming in, and so but she's not here, so we'll go ahead and Jackie is coming in, so we're about ready to get started in a few minutes. And you heard my name, heard your name coming in the door. Look here. Did you see the statement from the bishops? So we just might read some of this, and I might ask you to read half, and I'll read it.
Okay, I didn't see it.
Okay.
Everybody's here?
I'll read from there to, and then you'll start right
Okay, all right,
No,
okay.
right.
This is from Bishop Eaton?
there. Bishop Eaton, no, this is from the Region 9 bishops.
Oh,
That is missing, so don't worry about that. Just skip it and keep it going.
okay.
All righty.
Uh-huh. Okay, so you're gonna read the first and I'll read the,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
All right, look like it's time, huh?
It is now time, and don't see anyone else coming in, so we can get started here. All right. Hello and welcome to the South Carolina Synod Inclusive Network book study. Our book for tonight is Stamp, and we're trying to get to the end of it, but we're not in a hurry to just rush because we want to feel the entire book.
Yeah.
Stamp, Racism, Antiracism, and You.
Mhm.
This has been a powerful and informative study. We wish to hear from each and every one of you, so just raise your hand and we will call on you. Tonight, Bruce, and we pray for him. He said maybe under the weather somewhat, so help him out as we go. But
Okay.
Bruce, we want to talk a few things that's we need to discuss and what they'll talk about because it's in the air. First of all, we have Pastor Jackie, and she had the MLK Junior program on Sunday, a wonderful program. Jackie, can you tell us anything about it? And some of us, I know Danny was there,
Yes,
and so chime in, Danny, and if you have anything to say,
yeah,
Jackie,
yeah.
tell us about your program.
Okay, was the 13th annual Dr. MLK Jr. Community Celebration. And let's see, it started actually in 2011 and had to maybe skip a couple of years here or there because of COVID and different things. And so, but I must say that this year was the least attendance of all the years. Dan, it was the least attended. It was, we may have gotten around 65 people. And last year we had 90, and we usually have 100 in all of the previous years. it's because, like I said, it's one of the largest services that Ascension holds all year. It outnumbers Christmas Eve and even Easter. But nevertheless, there was a lot of things going on, and there was several people couldn't be there. But in any case, this year, Dan, I thank you, appreciate you, and Bruce for participating in the program, reading scripture and all. And we had Emily, Pastor Emily Wilhide from
Yes.
Incarnation open us with prayer and all. Okay, this was the most spirit-filled. There's never, Bruce, for you to not have attended as many of them or whatever, and Dan has attended the majority of them, all of them except for maybe one or two, whatever. You've never seen anything like that in a Lutheran church. Right, Sarah? It
Right.
was, Dr. McCauley, I'm sorry you missed it. The sister was a United Methodist. She's a United Methodist pastor.
Oh,
And
wow.
And she preached like Kojic. She preached like the Pentecostal. I know the sermon had to be a good 35 to 40 minutes almost, because when we thought it was over, she was just getting started when she stepped out from behind the pulpit and said, I learned to preach without a microphone. And then she came out in the center chancel, Rick, and she was just getting started with it. And she came down the steps, and she was very, it was just like my growing up in this, Dan and Bruce and Sarah. That was an example of what my church experience is like every Sunday
Yeah.
in a Pentecostal church.
Wow.
Every Sunday or every service that we have would be like that one, that young lady. I had no idea that she had that in her. I had heard her preach over at the seminary, but then again, she was at Lutheran Theological Seminary, with just white Lutherans, and me and her mixed up in there with a few other blacks here and there.
You mean she was more reserved?
She was more reserved. Okay. Now, she had the fire in her, but yet she was more reserved. And I knew that she was going to bring it like that there. And so, anyway, just to let you know, try to wrap it up. The idea is in the black church for the longest times, if we had problems getting a musician, it did not stop the music. We sing a cappella with a heartbeat. We will clap our hands, stomp our feet, and sing songs without an instrumentalist or anything like that, or a musician. So she brought her little choir with her, those that could make the trip, and notice that they had no musician, and each song they sang had no music. And so, and we just got right in and handcuffed. We knew the song. We knew the song. And so it was very spirit filled, and there were more African Americans than ever at this particular one than I've seen. I don't know where those folks came from. A lot of them I had never seen them before. I didn't know them. But in any case, they were from different churches throughout when I checked with them at the end.
Okay.
So it was a good community event for the fact that there were people there from all faith traditions there. And it turns out Reverend Tony Metz retired, and his retirement party was his retirement dinner or whatever was the same night. And Reverend Fink at Living Springs, and so a couple of churches up in the Northeast were having their MLK service the same time, at the same time. So you see, that speaks to where, some of our folks may have, that there were other events going on. But other than that, it was a wonderful event. It was a good hour and a half, an hour and 35-minute long service. And the food was plentiful, and the food was good and everything. And
It was very good.
Afterwards. And Bruce, I know you and Marie had to get on the road, but I'm glad you were able to get a takeout and carry that with you. And glad you made it home safely and all. Thank you for coming. Thank you all for being there. And it was wonderful. I am still elated over what happened, what transpired.
And I do believe Sarah and Bruce and Danny said amen. I heard
Oh, please.
Amen.
Yeah, amen. There was a lot of amens. And give me one more thing.
She was the type that would say, turn to your neighbor and say,
yes,
like a couple of times. And her thing was, what was the message? One more
Time.
Do it one more time.
Yes.
Give it one more
Yes.
chance.
Just one more time.
one more time.
Just one more time. And everybody was sticking up that finger, white folks and blacks alike. If she said, hold that finger up and say just one more time, everybody held that finger up.
One
and
more
said
time.
One more time.
Okay.
So, all right.
Anybody else, Sarah, Bruce,
Anybody wanna comment?
Danny, any comments?
It was just, wonderful service. And Jackie, thank you so much for, every year sponsoring that. It's very meaningful to me. And, I just appreciate it. It's so needed, I think, within our church. And thank you
Yeah.
for hosting it.
Yeah, thank you for always supporting it too. And you can see that Herman is a big advocate of it. Okay, let me just say this before we move on. I want to not do it every year. I say I'm not going to do it because my own congregation has never supported that service. The members of that congregation do not support that service. No matter how faithful they are to me, no matter how they say they love me or show love to me, they will not come. They will not attend that service. That hurts.
That's gotta hurt, Jackie.
It hurts. It hurts. And I keep saying, I'm gonna just say, excuse French, the hell with it. I'm not going to do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
What's the purpose if my own people doesn't embrace the service? But Herman told me not to not do it. He's
No.
Right.
Okay.
He let me
Yeah.
know. But like when she even asked for the Ascension folks, there were maybe 4 or 5 in the back, and Herman raised his hand when she said, Ascension, let me see you, show me. And and that hurts. That really does hurt. But nevertheless,
Sorry.
I thank God for you all, and you make me feel good by coming.
And of course, we say to you,
If I have chance, you and
one
I
more
would talk
time.
one day
Say what?
about that, but I think you can get them to be a part, Pastor Jackie.
Oh, I've tried for 12 years, and I've talked to them individually, and it does not work. I found, and let me just go there with you now, and we can get this story started. There are some white folks. I didn't know that there was as many white people that didn't like Dr. Martin Luther King, and some of them today, I've heard it from two out of their own mouth. They cared nothing for him, and they don't want to support anything that lifts his name up or give him a holiday. Now
that's part of the root cause of the nonchalant or maybe lackadaisical response you get. But you can still get them to be a part.
They don't
And
want.
I will find your, I will call you and then we can talk. But you can get them to be a part.
Okay, I begged.
But we do believe in miracles. Okay.
Just one more time. One more
Yeah,
time.
one-
You just heard Bruce
Jackie,
saying
one more time.
One more time. Okay, Danny, Bishop Marianne Buppe made some statements. Preach. What was your take on that?
About the bishop, well, I mean, it's just so meaningful. I'm just so proud of how she, has spoke out for the poor and the marginalized and the LGBTQ community, and she addressed it in such an appropriate way, diplomatic, and I'm just grateful for her leadership and for her encouraging the conversation. And it seems to have worked amongst a lot of other, churches. And I noticed that the ELCA Region 9 bishops, sent a letter out recently, along the same lines. And so it's important that, we can't be quiet. And she just eloquently spoke, to the situation that's occurring in our government today.
Okay.
Elegantly, she used.
Anybody else heard her speak? She was preaching, and she preached, and the president was there.
Yes.
Okay.
It was at the National Cathedral. The service that was held, and the president and other members were in attendance. And it really, really got their attention because it sounds as if it upset the president a great deal.
She singled them out then. And now I'm talking to different clergy from different faith traditions about the whole incident.
Right.
And Lutherans, we know that the gospel was
right.
She sent, wasn't the gospel preached?
That's
Wasn't
right.
Talking gospel.
Yeah,
when she said, have mercy. And all I've said to some is that, well, it is abnormal that a pastor from their pulpit singles out one individual in a congregation during a sermon. But this was different. It was a political arena in a church, because that's who it was, him and his family, the president and his family. She literally addressed him.
Appeal to him.
She addressed him, Mr. President.
Yes.
Please have mercy. Show mercy on these people. And he was livid.
Yes.
I think she's a prophetic and brave person.
Look, my secretary Googled her, and she just wrote a book on how to be brave.
Right.
Is that deep?
Yeah, that's
because
deep.
it was brave what she did.
Yes. Okay. All right. Then the Lutheran African descent pastors had a program, and some of us saw that. Anyone could share anything on that one? I was trying to get on, and some I got kicked out several times, but then I was able to get the preaching, and I was able to get a couple of sessions in. So, and Rick, you said you saw one that was probably pretty good, and some of the others didn't work too well.
I like the sermon during the opening worship, but like you, I got kicked off several times.
Yeah.
The linkage just wasn't making. They had a problem with their setup, but then I got bored, and the two breakout sessions I went to, I got pretty bored in both of them.
Yeah.
Okay. And I went to one and they were talking about Black pastors and how we are to have candidacy and make sure that they're included. Of course, now because I'm on the candidacy committee, I was already aware of what we need to do and how we need to do that.
Right.
But the one who preached, she preached about snake theology.
Snake theology.
Snake theology, yeah. And how we take the Bible and we use it and we gear it toward the white male. And therefore we bring in violence and hatred and all of that stuff and make it the gospel. And that's snake theology. And she used the Garden of Eden, how the snake tricked the woman and on all of this, and said that it was a good sermon, how she put it together. Any other comments on that? All right. Have we read the Region 9 Bishop statements?
Yep.
I haven't seen it. When did that come out? When did it come on an email?
Neil sent that out. Neil has sent it out this week.
Yesterday, maybe?
I was off yesterday, and I don't open emails on my day off for some reason.
Okay, well, let's see. Let's read a little bit. Let's read it right quick. Okay, I'll start. You read first. Okay. Dutch Jesuit priest Andre Nguyen once wrote, "There is always reason to hope, even when our eyes are filled with tears. As leaders of the Christian tradition across many states from Virginia to Caribbean, we are people of hope. But our hope is not one that sit idly by while injustice and oppression unfold before us are upon us. Rather, our hope is one that acts, moves, marches, prays, and proclaims solidarity with and for most vulnerable in our communities and churches. Our hope is in God of mercy and love, and not in prince. As a leader of faith, our hope and call is to live and lead as Jesus Christ teaches, to feed the hungry, give a cup of water to the thirsty, welcome the stranger, close the neck, care for the imprisoned, forgive and be forgiven, and many other ways that humanize our neighbors and ourselves. We believe that every single human being, regardless of their country or origin, immigration status, sexual orientation, or general identity, is created in the image of God and has inherent dignity and worth. No partisan policies can change this truth. Jesus' parable of mercy shows us that the caring for people in need is central to who we are as Christians. The parable also challenges us to acknowledge the goodness in all people, because the stranger in the story is the one who acts in the most Christ-like way. Together, we advocate for immigration and LGBTQIA plus policies and action that reflects Christ's love, recognizing that all people deserve respect and protection. Our tradition emphasizes both mercy and justice.
Justice requires everyone, including immigrants, to be treated fairly and equitably. While upholding the rule of law is important, it must not be done in ways that dehumanize or exploit vulnerable people. We are gravely concerned that places of worship, hospitals, and schools may be targeted for immigration enforcement. Wow. Policies that permit or encourage such raids at sensitive locations increase the suffering not only of undocumented adults and children, but also the many people who fear being unjustly targeted and would therefore avoid those critical places. Denying people the opportunity to attend worship, to be educated, or receive medical treatment violates individuals' fundamental rights. However, even with tears in our eyes, we will continue to hope in action. We strongly urge those in government and law enforcement to act with mercy so as not to perpetuate trauma, especially against women and children. We respect the right of our country to secure the country and its borders, and greatly appreciate the work of law enforcement. However, these new changes are disturbing many families and could end up not making us safer, but could separate families or make them not show up to church or to school or to the hospital when they need assistance. That is not in the best interest of our country. So justice requires everyone, including members of the LGBTQIA plus community, to receive the same rights and access to care as they see fit. Marriage equality and access to medical care are constitutional rights. We are all members of one human family. Therefore, we approach immigration and LGBTQIA plus rights not merely as a political or legal issue, but as matters of human solidarity. However, even when tears fill our eyes, we will continue to hope in action together. These are the 9 bishops, huh?
Yeah, the 9 bishops.
And so we choose to live. This looks like offering opportunities for pathways to citizenship for those who have lived in the United States for years, contributed to the country, and became our family, friends, and neighbors. It should also guarantee protection for those fleeing violence or persecution in their country of origin, ensuring that immigrant families remain united and making sure that children are not punished for their parents' actions. Lastly, and so we choose to live our faith and hope in action, doing justice, loving mercy, and walking humbly with our God. We implore you as elected officials to do the same and to remember that each and every time you don't, you have caused harm to God's children. And so Bishop Abisher and all of the bishops, Vivian Davila, Dr. Phyllis Milton, from the Virginia Synod, the Caribbean Synod, North Carolina Synod, Southeastern Synod, and the Florida Bahama Synod.
All right.
Wow.
Wow.
All of those bishops.
All of those bishops. And of course, we heard from Bishop Buffet. We heard from the Catholic bishop in Texas also stood on mercy and justice. And then, of course, our Region 9 bishops. Any comments?
Let me ask you a question. Had you all heard of the fact that, because when Bishop Abisher came to our service the other night, she let me know that she needed to leave sooner than later because she needed to get over to our Hispanic ministries, Cristo Rey, over at St. David's here in West Columbia, because Pastor Jorge did mention that there's some fear about the fact that churches used to be off limits to those people hunting the immigrants and refugees, but now, which is what I heard read in this, is that they can go in churches, schools, and hospitals and get people.
Absolutely.
Who would want to go to church if you would fear that someone could come in and get and
Absolutely.
take you away?
It's a sad day for our country. That's
Yes,
all I
it
can
is.
say.
Yes, it is.
The matter is, though, the ICE agent cannot and should not arrest anybody without a warrant, especially if you're in a private property like the church. You
Yeah.
got to have a warrant from the judge. If a judge does not give a warrant, they should not. The leader of the church should not be amenable to allow that person to be arrested.
The only problem with that is you open the door, they come in
And
Yeah.
and force themselves in, yes. But we have to teach people, don't open the door.
But since the Clemente picnic situation in South Carolina, Reverend Chandler, Canna, you know quite well that churches' doors have been closed. I mean, right at certain time the doors are closed, never opening again until worship is over.
Yeah, okay. And that's a sad day when we cannot worship with the open door. Yes. Okay. Certainly we want to thank the bishops for standing up for mercy and justice. And I also want to thank Neil, who sent this out, and also he works with us and gets us on the air.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Neil.
Thanks to Neil.
Thanks, Neil.
Okay, Bruce, we gave you a break. Now we'll turn it over to you.
Do we want to talk about the next book before we start?
The next book.
Yeah.
At this point, we have only one book that was brought up was Malcolm X. And it was a few of us who said that that may be a pretty good book to deal with.
What do y'all think about that? I think that we came up with that over one discussion we was having
Yeah,
one
we had
week.
one discussion that
And
happened.
we were learning some things
Yeah.
about him, and I've never read his autobiography. I've never read a biography or an autobiography on him. And someone mentioned that it was very interesting. There was a lot to be learned about who he was and what effect he did have on.
Yeah.
On
Yeah,
things.
Well, this
I
book
also-
mentions that a good bit. Yeah.
So what now?
This book mentions it several times, the autobiography, and I believe Alex Haley,
Yeah.
maybe assisted. Yeah.
Yeah,
I wonder how
Also-
long it is.
Yeah.
yeah.
It-
That matters too.
I seen it as well, but I didn't read it. There was another book I told Pastor Cannon about. Is the title of the book is Learning to Be White. It's on race relation as well by Tankida, Tankeda. A friend of mine recommended that book to me when we were in seminary. That was years back. I think I ordered a copy of that, but I never realized whether it came or my children or somebody did something with it. But it's a book on race relation. You see the author paints a picture of a person in white skin, and then one side of the face is a black.
Okay. Okay, so that would be two books that we could possibly decide. So Malcolm's the biography of Malcolm, that's not the huge book, but the biography. So, yes.
Oh, well, it depends on what the volume of the book
Okay.
is too, how large the book is.
Okay, it's just a little novel. It's not that much, not that deep.
And I have another book for consideration. It's called The Color of Law. It
You
was a New York.
That's been placed on the table a
Yes.
few times before, and I guess we're just overlooking that one. So
Let's see. Yes,
That's
it's
a
a
good
New York
book.
Times bestseller. It's by Richard Rothstein,
Okay.
Rothstein, and it's a forgotten history of how our government segregated America.
Yeah, that's a good book.
that sounds like, well, that one's been brought up a couple of times a while back. The Color of Law, and I think we were leaning toward that one, Bev. So we need to take a look.
Okay, so we have Learning to Be White, The Color of Law, and Malcolm X.
Malcolm X, okay.
Okay, and we have time. Oh, so do me, Bruce, but
Well, we're not gonna have time for so much. We got 2 more times for this book here. That's a given, okay? The next 2 sessions, this session and the next session, we'll finish up this book, I would say.
Okay, and we need to talk with Reverend Macaulay and Bruce. Showing the film, showing the movie in not Ellery, is that Ellery?
Ellery.
Ellery. Okay, so we can do maybe February or March.
I mean, whatever seems good. We just
Okay,
need to let the date be announced, and then we can galvanize and bring the folk together.
okay.
What is the closest Lutheran church in Ellery? St.
I
Matthew.
was about to ask Bruce, where are you located? You're located close to
Our church is in Vance.
Okay.
And there is a Lutheran church in Ellery as well.
Yeah, I know I came across one.
Okay, so we'll look into that and see. And of course, now Rick is not too far from that, but we've already done the movie at Rick's church. Okay.
Yeah, Ellery's in the eastern part of the county.
Okay.
Ellery.
Okay, I'll talk with Bruce and I'll talk with Dr. McCauley and see what connections we can get there and set a date. And then, of course, Reformation has offered a time. And then, of course, I'll be talking with Danny and see whether or not we can go up in that area. Okay.
And what we could do, Pastor Kenna, is St. Bruce's Church is in Vance. Vance is not far. It's part of Santee area. And then in the other church in Ellery, you can bring the 3 congregations together and find a central location.
Okay. Well, we found what's the name of your church?
Union is right on 390 Old River Road, 390 Old River Road, right in Ellery. Is right on the road. You take that road, take you straight to Santee.
Okay. I'll talk with Bruce and then we'll see what's the best way to do that. But at least we have your church there ready to go.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
All
Bruce,
right.
take it away.
All right. We're on chapter 22.
Didn't do 21.
We didn't do
I don't
21.
know why nobody didn't tell you, Bruce. I just saw Bruce's email today.
Okay.
We didn't do 21 last time, Bruce. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Well, let's some of you were there when we saw the movie Four Little Girls.
Yeah.
That's what this chapter
Yeah, that's what
deals with.
21. Yeah.
And
Davis is there for that.
and some of us were able to go there in Birmingham and see the memorial to these 4 little girls.
Yeah.
But any comments you all want to make on that?
Well,
There was,
Davis, excuse me.
go ahead. I was just gonna say, I did not realize, I guess maybe I missed it if it was in the film, but I did not realize that Angela Davis
Right.
was a friend of those girls, or friends of at least one of the families of those girls, that she was intimately involved in that area.
I'm
As a
just
young
learning
girl.
this now in this book.
Yeah.
With all the movies and all the stories we've seen about those 4 little girls, those little girls, I've never made the connection with Angela Davis until reading chapter 21 here in this book.
And of course, she was Dynamite Hill. She will always talk about Dynamite Hill. That's the area where the bombing occurred.
Oh, okay.
And but she was in school a lot of the times. And so when this happened, she was actually out of the country, and she was ready to come back because of her list. But she knew the family, the families.
I thought it was deep on page 170. This is about Angela Davis. This chapter here really does focus on Angela Davis and her connection to those 4 little girls. and what how it affected her and everything. In the middle of the page, I thought it was pretty deep that she talks about this Sally Davis. I think that's a mom, that a
Yeah.
mother. Sally Davis is a mother. And she says on Dynamite Hill, where Angela Davis grew up, her mother, Sally, and her husband trained their daughter to be an anti-racist. That's one of the titles of this book, Anti-Racist. And so most of her childhood was spent wrestling with the poverty and racism around her. Why didn't her classmates have certain things? Why were they hungry? Why weren't they able to eat in school? She even did, this is what I'm pointing out, she even decided early on that she would never, despite the pressure, desire to be white. I thought that stood out to me. See that printed like that. Despite the pressure, that she would never desire to be white. Okay. I'm done.
Okay, and then of course, as I said, that's she had Jane Baldwin, who had an influence on her, and then she was fascinated by Malcolm X.
Yeah.
And because she was fascinated by Malcolm X, but she did not believe
in his
in
religious
his religion,
teachings,
but she believed in what he was saying.
yeah,
Okay.
from political ideas. Yeah.
Yes.
Dynamite Hill. And then I didn't realize this. President John F. Kennedy wanted to try to fix what had happened with those 4 little girls getting bombed and murdered like that. And this cost him his reputation, his ratings dropped, and he tried to rebound. And it says in here he never made it back to the White House after his ratings dropped. And it was all because he was trying to find out and fix and solve that bombing of that church where those 4 girls lost their lives. And then it says that because of that, he never made it back to the White House, and he was killed right after that.
And that's the reason he didn't make it back to the White House.
That he was killed.
He was killed. Yes.
Yep.
Okay, and then of course it's on page 174.
Yeah.
Then we have the Civil Rights Acts. The Civil Rights Act coming and that was in 1964, Civil Rights Act. And then in steps George Wallace and Barry Goldwater.
Okay. That was bad.
And
it was a bad time.
It was a bad time and very racist.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
On 175, we have Johnson, Mississippi Freedom Democrats and the party of the SNCC. Also on 175, we have Malcolm X returning from Africa. And of course, he went on his pilgrimage.
Where is that at? On
175. Yeah.
Before we go past that,
yeah,
I like to see that the author really lifts up the difference between fighting for freedom and fighting for civil rights. There's a difference.
Okay.
Okay, the shift went from fighting for civil rights to fighting for freedom. The difference between the two is simple. One implies a fight for fairness, which is civil rights, or the other, a right to live, which is fight for freedom. Okay?
Okay.
The difference between the two. Okay.
All right. So when he came back, he changed his tune. And of course, the Black Muslims did not like it. And he was shot down.
That's right.
February 21st, 1965.
1965. Okay.
And I think it almost ends with Haley writing an autobiography of Malcolm X.
Yeah, and this was something I wanted to point out last. We kind of tried to get started in this particular chapter, but we didn't get to this part on page 177. Where Alex Haley writes the autobiography, and the book was published after his death. Would that be after Malcolm X's death or after?
Yeah.
After Malcolm's death?
Malcolm. Yes.
Okay. And I thought this was essential right here. His ideology, transformation from assimilationist to anti-white separatist to anti-racist inspired millions. And this is what he argued. I thought this was pretty deep here. He argued that though white people weren't born racist, America was built to make them that way. And that if they wanted to fight against it, they had to address it with the other racist white people around them. That's a profound statement right there. Because this is where we are in the world today. That if anybody that wasn't born with racism and America was built to make it that way, then the way to fight against it is to address it with other racist white people around them. And and that's where I always argue about a white pastor can't stand up in his pulpit and preach against racism in his or her church without getting blackballed out of the church and losing their job.
Yeah.
Even though they know they may have racists sitting among them, they can't address it.
Can't address it. Okay. And then, of course, as the chapter ends, the Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964, and then the Voting Rights Act was passed in 1965. And we end on the vote. It seems as if they want to take all of it away today.
Oh, well, the voting right made some people mad.
Yeah.
Made some people very angry. Yep.
Okay.
Chapter 22
There you go, Bruce.
talks
Pastor
about
Leroy.
the rise of Black Power. And I wrote in my notes about Stokely Carmichael.
Yeah.
He was trying to be free from the white supremacy. Anything else in that chapter you want to highlight?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I write down something about the Black Panther Party started then. And I don't know, Planet of the Apes came out.
Oh yeah,
I don't-
Planet of the Apes.
And then like some women they said were kind of pushed aside, like it wasn't really everybody ignored the women. And
Yeah.
so women started leaning towards the Communist Party to be heard.
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, they brought that out in that the film about the nuclear bomb. That one of the main characters joined the Communist Party, and they're like, "What? No."
Yeah, that actually inferred other reading that a lot of not just females, but a lot of African Americans and other folks who were trying to address the social problems in the U.S. at that time turned to the Communist Party. In fact, a couple chapters ago, it mentioned the Greensboro, North Carolina lunch sit-in.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of a fella that I went to school with in college, went to Augustana, a good Lutheran boy, who he was president of the student body my freshman year. And he went on to Harvard and studied law and then switched to University of Virginia and studied medicine. And then after getting he studied theology also at Harvard and got his theology degree there. But he went to Greensboro to do community organizing as a member of the Communist Workers' Party. And in 1979, he and his fellow leaders, community leaders, were organizing an anti-KKK march. And before it started, truckloads of KKK supporters came and murdered them.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awful.
that's awful.
That's awful. That's
And
awful.
what I heard there was that they were marching against the KKK.
They were marching
All right.
against the KKK.
And what it is, history would let us believe that the Communist Party was the one that was doing all of the evil work. But they were going against the KKK. J. Edgar Hoover even arrested Angela Davis because she joined the Communist Party because they called for the rights of women and other people's rights. And then, of course, they tried to arrest Martin Luther King Jr. and called him a communist too, but that didn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Then on page 184, the 10th point of the Black Panthers platform. You know, I know in doing the kind of the summary, he had to shave things down, but I don't think he did point 10 justice.
okay.
Because it actually reads in the bigger portion of the book, it goes into more detail, and actually point 10 actually reads, we want land, bread, housing, education, clothing, justice, and peace. And as our major political objective, a United Nations supervised plebiscite or vote to be held through the Black colony, in which only Black colonial subjects will be allowed to participate for the purpose of determining the will of the Black people as to their national destiny. So part of their platform was demanding that the United Nations come in and supervise a vote of Black people on what they wanted to do, if they wanted to stay or leave or. So the Black Panthers were very strong.
Yeah, they were. I grew up during my teenage years. I was learning about the Black Panthers, and they were more up north or something. And me being down here in Little South Carolina, we didn't see any sign of a Black Panther or hear anything about a Black Panther. But before we leave this chapter here, I want to deal with the word Black. Yeah. We cannot leave this chapter without really dealing with the word Black, because I'm affected by it and have been affected by it all my life for being dark and not fair-skinned in my race, within my own family. And so the word Black has always been derogative. And what this author points out is that he on page 180, he lifts up the scholars pointing out all the phases of negativity of Blackness. Oh. Black sheep, Black balling, Black male, and Black listing. Okay, which is associated Blackness and negativity. Okay, and so then we got the word ghetto and minority, that you don't have to say Black, but ghetto and minority means what? Black. The Black. Yeah. And so
it does now.
It did then, and it does.
I used.
Yeah.
I used the word I used that word in my sermon Sunday because 6 years ago yesterday, I was in Peoria, Illinois for the closing of the church that I was baptized in 1950. Okay. That church was built in 1895 on the south side of Peoria, Illinois, which was then known as the German ghetto.
Wow.
Because it is where all the German low-level workers were forced to live.
So ghetto.
And it remained a ghetto.
Yeah.
It's still a ghetto. It gradually became Black and white ghetto, but now it's predominantly African American and Hispanic ghetto.
That's
still a ghetto. But at one point there were Italian ghettos, Irish ghettos, German ghettos, all the undesirables who came in, undesirable immigrants.
Okay. Yeah.
A lot of us have been through that.
Yeah, I'm still living through this Black stuff. You know what I just said, Leroy? I'm still living through the Black stuff.
We're still Black.
I'm still Black, and I'm still living through it. So it says that, I don't know whether y'all saw this on 180 and 181, where it says, okay, now we got this term Black, which stunned Martin Luther King Jr.'s Negro disciple. Negro disciples, and their own assimilationist parents and grandparents who would rather be called nigger than black. I know that. I've been around people like that when I was a little girl.
Huh.
That they did, you know, when black came on the scene, James Brown, before I even read it in this book, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. That did something for little children growing up here in the South with dark skin, and the word black was so derogatory. You know it.
Absolutely. It was derogatory, and you just said it.
Yeah.
With the phrases that they use, black sheep and black ball and black male and black slide and black listen, everything was bad. And here you are black, and they're looking at you and saying that you are a bad child.
That's right.
And you have to live with that.
That's right.
And once you live with that, and they take away your dignity, then you think that you are bad.
That's right.
But then someone come back and say, I'm black and I'm proud.
That's right. And there's power in blackness. That's
And
what
there's
Stokely,
power in
that's what
blackness.
Stokely brings out here.
Okay.
Is that there's power in black.
And so it brings the black person alive. And of course, they try to derogatory that Black Panthers, and they said that they were wrong.
Right.
And here they were trying to provide breakfast, free breakfast, Medicare, and political education and stuff to the people. And there's the 10 points that they have.
And black power, but before
Black power.
Stokely Carmichael meant what he meant by black power was this: black people owning and controlling their own neighborhoods and futures. How? Free of white supremacy.
Yeah. And looking at page 83, 10 points. Power to determine the destiny of black community, full employment, an end to the robbery of the black community by the government, decent housing, real education, for all black men to be exempt from military service. Now, they were pushing it, but they asked for it because they will put the blacks up front. They would kill them all. Okay. An immediate end to police brutality and murder of black people. Freedom for all black prisoners. Well, that's pushing it. For all black people on trial to be tried by a jury of their peers. Peace and black representation in the United Nations. And Rick, all the other things that they were saying. That's what they were saying.
That's what Rick was speaking on earlier.
And then here comes James Brown, and he was saying what?
Say it loud.
Say it loud.
I'm black and I'm proud. For the first time in my life, I realized that I was born a human being when that man made that song. I'm like, you mean I got something to be proud about? But it did. It gave you a sense of, wow, we really are somebody. I really am somebody. I'm not a nobody. And that song really did do it for the children, black children and myself. We were running around like, I'm black and I'm proud.
We took over your thing, but we black and proud now.
It's kind of Pastor Jackie. As I listened to Rick, who was making the reflection of his own upbringing, the neighborhood, and talking about, you know, how that neighborhood has changed. The identity there has shifted from that of German and those who occupied that place originally to now you have African American and Hispanic and so forth.
Right.
Barack Obama made a speech several years ago, and I think after he and Professor Louis Gay had that conversation at the White House, it's ironic now that we're in this era where we're still trying to deal with this issue of race and race relation, particularly so from a president who is so racist in his own. I mean, he spilled a lot of these misogyny and all those kind of racist comments. But what Obama said was, except you are a Native American, everybody who came here came from somewhere. And he said when they arrived first, they were always looked down upon. They were called ghetto, and they were living in slum and so forth. And then he said, and then sooner or later, when they become like Then we look for the other group and we look down upon them. He said, but the reality is everybody is an immigrant.
Mhm.
And if we can just see ourselves as being evolving, because prior to the other group that we arrive, the first group that comes, everybody looked down upon them, the Jews, the Irish, and so forth. And I think this is where number 47 now, who is now in the White House, who wants to run a kind of a dictatorship kind of government, wants to, no longer want to have our democracy to be in place. He said, if you elect me, you don't have to worry anymore. You won't have to elect anybody. They are the Republican retreat now in Florida, and he's throwing words around for his third term. Now, if you understand the history of America, then you will know that everybody except the Indian and except those who were brought here, black folk, nobody owns this country.
That's right.
But from a historical construct, until we realize that this is a land of immigrant, the one who does not know his or her history would think he owns the place more than anybody else.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
But I just thought about when Rick was talking, there were times they looked down upon the Jews, they looked down upon the Germans. They were considered, they came from the slum, they were in ghetto.
Yeah.
But when the life become to improve and another group comes and want to get assimilated with the American mainstream culture, they look down upon them. And it's this problem of always thinking us versus them that have created this. So this man is a resurgence of everything that is evil of this country we've all known that is a land of immigrants.
That's right. That's right. Okay, you're right, Dr. McCollins. That was a good point.
Very good.
Okay. All right. We're almost out of time. I can give a quick recap on 23 and 24.
Okay.
Then next time we can pick it up with 25. 23 makes the contrast between Rocky, which was the prize of white supremacy,
right?
Versus Roots. And chapter 24 talks about Reagan and the war on drugs, which is really a war on blacks and putting a lot of blacks in jail.
This was a deep chapter. This one here with what Reagan did. Mm-hmm. Yeah. How it broke up the family, how it really impacted what the black family looked like based on the amount of drugs that a black person was found. Is this chapter?
Yeah.
About the drugs.
If a black guy got caught with 5 grams of cocaine, he
5
went to jail.
5 years. Right.
But the white guy could have 500 grams.
Yeah.
Then he'd go.
This really pointed out to me how the system worked against the black family and why there were so many black males because of a drug, because of a little gram of marijuana or crack, got them put away. Then when they got out, guess what they could not do? Vote.
Oh.
Can't vote.
This is what has happened. This is why the country is the way it is. All wound up in Reagan and this stuff with the drug stuff. Get the black man in jail for messing with this little crack and coke or whatever. Then when he gets out, he cannot vote and he can't get a job. And look at the black family, the woman and the mother and the children in a home.
And then they build the prison system.
Yeah.
Because they know that they can put them in jail.
Yeah.
And then they'll be in jail, and that's a big business.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, today, right now, they are gearing up to build to improve their prison system so that they can take more in.
Yep.
And the Cosby Show came out.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, and when the Cosby Show
what a typical family.
And when the Cosby Show came out, as a black person, when you saw it, you did feel like, wow, isn't that nice? We're being portrayed as middle class or upper echelon, a
Yes.
doctor and a, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And a
And a
lawyer.
lawyer.
And a lawyer.
And that was good for even the blacks to see
It was. It made us happy.
because of the fact that what they, during the Reagan time, what they did, they said that blacks are lazy, blacks were violent, blacks were absent from the home, they were irresponsible,
Yeah.
and they were careless. And then all of a sudden, we were able to see on
Yeah.
television.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It changed the narrative.
Yep,
Yes.
it did.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
So Bruce, that was 23. I think we did 23. Well, we went into 24 with the
24.
Cosby.
Oh, yeah, that was 24.
Yeah.
And oh, just one more thing in 24 at the end, George Bush. This was H.W. Bush.
Yeah.
The blacks got persecuted again because there were so many crack babies.
Yeah. That term came along, crack baby.
Crack babies. Yes.
And notice we don't hear anything about Carter. He got skipped right over.
Never.
Yeah.
He doesn't even make he didn't make this, he didn't even make it in there.
Well, I did find that interesting that the author chose not to address President Carter. And, obviously President Carter was one for human rights and, based his legacy on that. So maybe the author just found favoritism with him in his work.
The author is clearly saying to us, and every other statement that I read in these last couple chapters here was racism.
Mm-hmm.
What is racism? Who is involved with racism? Carter wouldn't make the script.
Yes.
Right.
As a white man, he would not make the script. He doesn't belong in this conversation. He didn't fit the criteria. His name couldn't be, why would his name be mentioned? He isn't doing anything. He isn't causing any negativity, between people. And that's what
And that's a great point you just raised, though. That's a very valid point you just raised, because even Carter, some of his own conservative Democrat came to him and felt his connection with black folk was going to cause him it was going to hurt him politically.
And it did.
And yes, it did, but he was adamant in his belief, in his stance, that this is not right. That's right. This is not right. That's right. His longtime friend, Andrew Young, we had a forum one time when I was in seminary in Atlanta, Georgia, and he spoke there, and he had a lengthy discussion to just talk about Jimmy Carter, who he was as a person of decent character. Yeah. But more so as a Christian gentleman before his political life began to even evolve. So he had always been on the side of the marginalized in society. That's right. So when you said that, I can see why perhaps the author decided not to call,
Yeah. The author says, right now I'm trying to pull out all of this negativism that got racism as large as it is, bigger than life. And Carter's name don't even fit on the same, doesn't even go in this story. So why even bother mentioning him? He doesn't fit in this story at all. From the white man's, perspective is the way the author is.
Absolutely. Yeah. You start talking about Reagan and Southern strategy that started there. Yeah. And Bush used it, but Carter refused to do it.
That's right. That's right.
That was one of the reasons why he didn't make it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because he was trying to do the right thing for all people. Uh-huh. Okay. Any other comments? By the way, any of us, are we available, say 12 o'clock, if I can, during one of our sessions or so, that we could have a plenary meeting with the assistant to the bishop? Anybody is not available during that time, we'll probably let you know. But would that be a bad time, 12 o'clock in the day or something like that?
What are you saying, Reb? I don't understand what you're
asking. We might have instead of say 6:30, we might have a 12 o'clock meeting or something, a meeting with the assistant to the bishop.
meeting, a
A
meeting.
book, yeah, so to plan some of the things that we're doing.
Okay, I'm trying to see if I follow you. What is it that you're asking? 12:30, 12
I'm asking
o'clock
that, can some of us be available
For-
during that time?
for
Meeting-
a meeting
Yeah.
or a book study or what? What
Meeting, book study, planning session.
meeting? Okay, y'all get that? I'm digesting it.
Oh, you mean to choose a book?
No,
that's
choose the
not-
best, plan some time, what we might do, how we can increase, how they can help us.
But what you're saying is to get her in the meeting is 12 o'clock would be the time for her. Is that what you?
Could be, yes,
Oh, okay. Instead of,
Pastor Cannon,
yes.
while it's true that I'm an ecumenical member, is it possible we could invite her to one of our sections like Bruce always sends out communication? Invite her so she will know what it, how healthy this book club is and the authenticity of our discussion.
she's been attending those meetings, Dr. McCauley. That's
Yeah.
to this network.
Yeah, she
Is
can,
that-
Yeah.
She's been
Yeah.
attending.
but that's on 3 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah, that's 3 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And so you're trying to set up a 12 o'clock, a noonday time
Maybe.
that would work.
well, 12, 3, well,
Okay.
I was just saying, if anybody would not be available during that time.
Oh,
It depends on the day for me.
Okay,
yeah.
So I would be available, but not all every day at that time. Also to think about February 11th, and Jackie will be leading us then
Yeah.
to share some highlights of this book and kind of next steps. We can apply some things from this book as well as we wrap it up.
Okay.
okay. That sounds good.
Okay. So let me make sure we're clear. We just finished up and wrapped up 23 and 24. So next time begins with 25. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that we'll wrap it up. This will wrap it up next week.
Uh,
I mean that week that I do it.
25,
February 11th.
28,
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Okay.
it'll wrap it all
I'll
up.
wrap it
Yeah.
up, okay.
Yeah, because it goes to 28 and then
Oh, and February 11th is what time?
Yes.
6:30?
Yes.
Oh,
our
that's the
regular-
book. Oh,
yeah. I mean, we're finishing up this book. She
okay.
we wouldn't be trying to.
No, we
Yeah,
wouldn't try to
okay,
do
yeah,
that.
yeah, regular time, 6:30 for finishing up this book.
Right.
Okay.
Our next network meeting is at 3 o'clock on the 20th, right?
Actually, it's going to be at 2:30 on the 20th.
2:30?
Yeah.
The 20th of
Of
next-
February.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see.
Well, actually, we could possibly do some planning on the 20th then with Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
That'll
And
be-
Kimberly will be there.
Yeah, she would
okay,
be
she'll
there.
be there.
Yeah,
So,
2:30.
okay, we can do that.
Okay. We're doing.
So I'm excited about whatever book you all choose. I did want to point something out on page 177.
Yeah.
And it says that Malcolm X stamped that he was for the truth, not hate. Truth and truth alone, no matter where it was coming from. His autobiography would become anti-racist scripture. And that was really intriguing to me, that his autobiography was anti-racist scripture. And so I think that, I don't know how long that book is or whatever, if you all think it would work out, but it would certainly be intriguing to read it and to get a little bit more insight into his life and what he was about.
That's what you're leaning
Yeah.
toward, huh?
That's what I'm leaning toward, Malcolm X book. And it look like since we're finishing this up, this might be the book that we might need to go on into and then explore some of the other books that we have, so we have a chance to read.
We can do that. We just follow that chronological order. Since Malcolm X is mentioned many times in this book, we just go and then maybe look at the next book that comes in line. We got a long time to study the books together, so we're not in a hurry.
It's a good thing you mentioned that, Dan. Thanks for bringing that back around because
Yeah.
that's essential
Okay.
to the ending of this book that we would even look into
Mhm.
Malcolm's life autobiography. Okay. We'll
Okay,
do
so that would be Malcolm X books, and the author of that book would be Haley.
Yeah, Alex Haley.
Alex Haley, okay,
Alex Haley.
all right, very good. Okay, so then we'll be looking for someone to start off with Malcolm X. So that's something that we were trying to get together and pull together as we start after the 11th.
Did you know Herman wasn't able to be with us tonight because he does a series on centering prayer. I don't know whether you've heard it mentioned. Has he mentioned it?
Yes,
Centering prayer.
Mhm.
And he does a series of it at different churches and what have you. So tonight he was doing one pretty much through the Interfaith Partners of South Carolina, which I'm a part of, and he always was a member of. And he was doing that centering prayer from 6:30 to like 7:45 tonight.
Oh, wow.
At the library here in Columbia. So
That's great.
that's where he was doing that tonight.
All right.
Okay. And so
Okay, and we're ready to leave. Bruce, you anyone who's praying us out?
The Lord be with you.
Also with
Go
you.
with you.
May the God of our Father, Jesus Christ, strengthen you and keep you in his grace. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
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 Take care of yourself, Bruce.
Yeah,
Thank
hope you're
you.
feeling
Hope you feel
better.
better.
Feel better, Bruce.
Oh, hey, Dan,
Yeah.
Yes.
president of Newberry College, David said, is gravely ill. So that's why there's an acting president.
I see. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Sharon is his name. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you.
Gravely ill, Sarah, you said.
Yes, he's in bad shape.
What's his name?
Mm.
So I can pray for him. Say his name.
Sharon, Dr. Sharon,
Dr.
Dr.
Sharon.
Sharon.
SHERRIN, something like that. Sharon.
something like that. It could be SCH.
SCHERRIN. Dr. Sharon of Newberry College.
Right.
Great.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm gonna add him to my prayer list and call his name out in prayer.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. All right, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Thank y'all.
Take care.
Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
God's peace. Okay, I'm gonna pray for that one.